Be the Bridge exists to empower people and culture towards racial healing, racial equity, and racial reconciliation. But did you know we also offer diversity trainings to meet the needs of any organization in every field? In our trainings, our educators combine their education, experience, and expertise to present the 5 bridges of diversity. The foundational bridge provides the ethics of diversity, why this work is necessary. The professional bridge provides definitions for key terms like race, ethnicity, and culture. The historical bridge gives a context for the work, so we understand our present is not disconnected from our past. The professional bridge gives tools necessary to lead and work in cross-cultural settings. Finally, at Be the Bridge, we always offer a bridge of hope, challenging people not to accept where they are, but to dream of where we can go when we do this work together. For more information on Be the Bridge trainings, log on to bethebridge.com/training. We look forward to serving you.
Be the Bridge, Be the Bridge. You are listening to the Be the Bridge podcast with Latasha Morrison.
How you guys doing today? It's exciting.
Each week, Be the Bridge podcast tackles subjects related to race and culture with the goal of bringing understanding.
But I'm going to do it in the spirit of love.
We believe understanding can move us toward racial healing, racial equity, and racial unity. Latasha Morrison is the founder of Be the Bridge, which is an organization responding to racial brokenness and systemic injustice in our world. This podcast is an extension of our vision to make sure people are no longer conditioned by a racialized society, but grounded in truth. If you have not hit the subscribe button, please do so now. Without further ado, let's begin today's podcast. Oh, and stick around for some important information at the end.
Okay, Be the Bridge community. This is Latasha Morrison, your host of the Be the Bridge podcast, and I am so excited to have this brother here with us today to really talk about something that a lot of you in our audience are familiar with, and then maybe a few of you aren't familiar with. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Enneagram. Yes, I said Enneagram. And I am speaking as an Enneagram 9 and proud of it with an 8 wing. We have my brother, Milton Stewart. He has an MBA, and he is the founder of Kaizen Careers, Coaching and Consulting LLC. He loves facilitating the Enneagram and helping people feel seen. He is one of the very few African-American male Enneagram teachers in the world. Milton believes that the Enneagram is more than just a personal tool, but a map to how to truly honor the humanity of others. He uses the Enneagram in many ways, but the most powerful way he uses it is in spaces of diversity, equity, and inclusion. He hosts and this is how I found out about Milton, is a friend sent me this, and it was what I wanted to know more about the Enneagram, but I wanted to do it in my cultural language and understanding. And he had a podcast called Do It for the Gram. And that right there just spoke to me because he said, do it for the gram. And it's an Enneagram podcast which teaches the Enneagram from a very practical standpoint. Milton is the first African-American male international Enneagram Association Global Board member. Prior to his full-time work in Enneagram space, he worked in education. He helped adult students who were working to achieve their high school diplomas. He also worked as an administrator in an elementary school, providing tools for students and staff to succeed. And so let's welcome Milton Stewart to the Be the Bridge podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And just a few months, it's been over 6 months. We had you in, with our Be the Bridge team, with our staff, and we had everyone take the Enneagram test, and he came and walked us through just some of the training and tools, and it was like so eye-opening. And most of everyone that was on our team, except for maybe one or two, they were familiar with the Enneagram, but I think even the people who were familiar had a new perspective after going through the training that you did with the team. So I love the foundational tools that you have here. What does Kaizen means?
So Kaizen means continuous improvement. And so, and so the focus like of my business, I wanted to make sure it's like continuous improvement. So wherever I go, whatever I do, I'm leaving footprints of continuous improvement.
Okay, so Kaizen, I love it. I love it. And so I wanted to talk about, why is the Enneagram, there's been a lot of, I don't want to say hype, because there's some it has helped a lot of organizations, people's family, and all of that. But there's been a lot of talk and discussion around the Enneagram, for several years now. I think I was living in Texas when I first heard about it, probably back in 2012, I think I heard about it. And I didn't really understand it, at first. I was like, oh, this is another just personality test, but it was so funny because as 2012, 2016, you hear more and more about it. But when I would talk to any of my African-American friends, like, oh, what's your Enneagram number? They're like, what? Huh? What? And so I just, you're right. And so I only found out because I was in predominantly white spaces, how I found out about it. How did you find out about it? First of all, to become a facilitator. And why is that the case? Why were we only hearing about it in predominantly white spaces?
Great question. So I found out about it it may have been similar to the time you found out about it, but I dove in super deep. So it was around 2012, 2011 maybe. So what happened was I was stuffing my face full of food at a devotional at our young adult minister's house, as usual, because I love to eat. And so I'm stuffing my face, and we're just in a group, just sitting around the living room eating because the devotional, it was over. And so he came and he was like, hey, who wants to take this personality test? And everybody's like, yeah, me, I love these things. Let's do this, right? So he brings in this big blue book, which is called The Wisdom of the Enneagram. Pretty notable book in the Enneagram space. And he has 2 questions. It's like a 2-question test that they have in there with 6 different options. I get mine correct on the first one. My first 2 letters correct on the first time I take it. And he starts reading the first 2 paragraphs of the chapter of my type. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That's me. Sounds good. It looks good. And then he starts reading the 3rd and 4th paragraph, which are total opposite of what I want people to know about me. And I'm like, oh no, what the world is this? So I'm sitting there. You know how when you if you're in church and somebody calls out what you struggling with, but you try not to show it in people, so you trying to look extra normal. You no, I'm good. This is so good. So I'm trying to look normal in front of them, but I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to research this. I don't know about this. I don't know. But inside I'm like, oh my goodness, how do they know me?
Because it's supposed to be
right. Who's been watching me when I don't know it? Big brother?
It's crazy.
Yes. So this is how I found out about it. So as soon as I did that, it made me extremely excited to go figure out what the world this was and start to study it. And so at that time, it wasn't that many books around like it is now. There's tons of books, tons of IG pages.
There's a book for the book.
Oh my goodness, tons of podcasts.
Yes.
There's tons of things on Enneagram now out there. How much is quality? That's to be determined. But nevertheless, it just wasn't that much. But whatever I could grab and find, I started to research and I started to study and I started to dive in. So that's the initial story of how I found the Enneagram or how it found me, to be honest. So what happened after that is I started to do a little bit of research about it because I didn't know much about it either, right? As a black person, we just didn't know much, right? So when I would do research and I would say, okay, let me see what's out there, there would never be anyone of color really out there really teaching or sharing the Enneagram. So I was like, okay, this is also interesting. And so one of the reasons it's taking time and we're getting there, but one of the biggest reasons it's not really tapped into BIPOC communities is because, one, it started when it came here. A guy by the name of Claudio Naranjo, he went over to California, and in California he went to, I want to say it was Berkeley or Stanford. And so these spaces where he was teaching were predominantly white when he came in. They were predominantly white, and so the teaching and everything that was happening around that time, another person named David Daniels and Helen Palmer. They're all white individuals, psychology majors, different things. And so they started to break it down and pass it to other people, but their circles were not BIPOC circles, you know?
Right.
So, you know, so it's not getting to people, you know, and this is probably about, I would say this is about 30 years ago, 30 to 40 years ago, this is starting to get to America.
Okay.
Started kind of, the bigger part of it, personality part, started more in South America, but came here, went there. So that's one of the biggest reasons. And they're never, I think that even though the tool is about self-awareness, I think there was still, because of the way that America is structured, there was still a lack of awareness that our community that we're sharing this wonderful tool with is not diverse. You know, it's so I think that's, I know that's one of the biggest reasons why it just has taken its time to get to BIPOC communities. And so it's like, who can figure out within the BIPOC community the tool and then be able to also translate it to where like our people are like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then too, all of the literature that they wrote on the types a lot of times, it doesn't always reflect BIPOC culture in the people. So we show up sometimes in the type differently. Because even though there's definitely going to be similarities, the core stuff is going to be the same that you have to work on. But externally, because our external world treats us differently, we have to show up differently. So when you read a book sometime that's a little bit older by somebody who hasn't been in diverse communities to see how the type reacts in a person, it'll only give this one siloed version, which is predominantly coming from a white experience and not a diverse or BIPOC experience.
Yeah, that's so good. And so you said where a portion of this started, you said in South America. And I think it was funny because the first thing I thought about, I was like, yeah, just like Christianity started in North Korea. Excuse me. just like Christianity started in North Africa. And then, when it goes through Europe, like, okay.
Yep.
But now you're saying like a portion of this started in South America, and wouldn't you know,
Can I add to what you just said?
Yes, please.
There's a big part of the Enneagram that actually started in North Africa as well, by the way. I'm just going to share that. Yes. Going back to Desert Fathers and some more stuff. I have some plans in the future to go because there's some people who teach it like some of the origins. There's some different parts of the world that it's come together, but some of those deep origins start exactly where you're talking about. Interesting, isn't it?
Ain't that interesting? Okay, Milton, I'm gonna need you to do a little more research on that, and we need to get a book from you about that.
Will do. Working on
it. But what I found now in understanding this, it really helps you to become more self-aware. But this is different. How would you say that? How is the Enneagram? First of all, I don't want to assume that people know what the Enneagram is because we have our BIPOC community, and some people are like, Ennea who? What? I know the Myers-Briggs. I don't. Right. So let's define. Can you define what is the Enneagram, and then we'll talk about how it's different from other personality tests.
Yeah, so the Enneagram is basically, it is a kind of like a journey or a map. You can call it a tool if you want. People call it many different things, but it's really, when you use it, when you work with it the right way, it's a tool to help you on a journey to help you find deeper self-awareness to transform yourself. And what it does, and this is the secret sauce of it, and we'll explain a little bit more on the next part, but it is the why behind how we think, how we act, and how we feel. And when we understand those, now we understand our motivation. And when we can know our motivation, we have something to work with. So it's hard for me not to answer the next question. Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So it's very different from other personality quote unquote tests because the goal is not to put you in a box. What the Enneagram does is show you what box you've been living in, and which is your patterns. Like our boxes, like our behavioral patterns, our thought patterns, our emotional patterns that repeat over and over again. So what the Enneagram does is helps us to see them more clearly so that we can start to work on them, and then we can kind of unravel that box and then be able to have more of a choice, more of autonomy to do what we really want to do and to truly show up for ourselves so that our personality doesn't just show up. Because when we don't show up, our personality shows up. So that is I would say part of it. And so the Enneagram has 9 types, what they call it, 9 different types. And what happens is each type has a different motivation or a different way that it has disconnected from God, basically, right? Many circles will say different things, like they may say something else, God, universe, whatever it is, but it's disconnected from the very essence of our creation and the unifying force that exists within all of us. So it's 9 different ways that we've done that somehow, some way. And it breaks down into 9 different pieces, and then there's more to it. I'm not going to explain more of that because that's too much to teach, but that is a big part of it. And so we get these interesting personalities on a way that we try to deal with this world that we're in. These are coping mechanisms in a way, and seeing the world in like only a ninth of the perception of what's really there. There's all of our perceptions are beautiful and they have something to give to the world, but we really see it only through our sliver until we start to work on ourselves and have more self-awareness.
Right. I think it helped me to also embrace myself and be comfortable in my skin and understanding like, okay, these are some of the things in because we all have things in our personality that we have to be aware of. But if I'm not aware of those things, I don't know how to work on those things. Yeah. And so there's some things that you can work on though. It's not just like, oh, this is just how I am. And so take me, or leave me. But, so we're like, there's ways that we can be healthy and unhealthy and what that looks like. And I think it is really beneficial in how we communicate with one another. What are some ways that you've seen it help in communication with one another?
Ooh, so there was just a global survey that was done by the Enneagram and Business Network. Okay. And that surveys all of these like corporate companies from around the world who've actually used the tool in business have said the greatest thing they get from it is empathy. And so when we are communicating, if we can like not only understand when I communicate that my words that have an impact on someone else and they're receiving them in a certain way, now I'm going to be more mindful, more heartfelt, about what am I actually saying and what am I actually displaying when I say certain things to certain people? Because now I'm more mindful, like, oh, this lands this way with this person. I didn't realize that, right? Or if I just talk really tough because this is how I like to talk, or this is my energy, it's like, but, I know, right? Right. Maybe the way that another person kind of receives that from the heart level or the head level or the body level is not necessarily going to get the necessarily and the healthy outcome for all of us. And so with communication piece, that empathy piece is one of the hugest things. And it's amazing how that showed up in a survey to corporate companies, which is so interesting, right? I didn't expect that at all. Like, I didn't expect that one bit. But
empathy.
Yeah, the other part of communication I would say that's pretty healthy and pretty big is like not only knowing other people and like what they show up with, because there are certain types that want to definitely be heard. There's certain types that want to be seen, and there's certain types that really are worried about, is it safe, right? And everyone has these in us, but there's some there's a priority to it, depending on your type structure. Okay. So that's one thing. The other thing is we sometimes don't know if we're a good communicator or not. We don't even we think we're a good communicator, right? And we like, these other people, something wrong with them. They just don't understand. But we don't understand that sometimes we only communicate from one center of intelligence that we're given. So we have a head center of intelligence, a heart center of intelligence, and a body, like a sensation gut center of intelligence. And we can communicate from all of them. But sometimes when people don't understand us, it's because maybe we're only communicating from one of those centers and we're not fully communicating like sometimes it's like, how do I feel about the situation? I'm telling you what I'm thinking, but I'm not telling you how I feel. So people are like, okay, we're moving forward, but now I'm frustrated. So it's really learning that, oh, this is what's going on with me. This is how I'm maybe miscommunicating, and what can I work on so I can communicate something that connects us, that moves us forward.
So good. one of the things I know it's helped us in our team, because when I know like what someone's number is, like I can understand like how they are showing up, and also what they need in return, like information that they need. And so that helps you. And I know like a lot of people I know have done this in their families, helping as far as like your relationships and communication, and with your children, and I think, understanding like how your children are wired, or their type, helps them. And just imagine going into college with this type of information. It's really transformative. And so I think it's really different. As I have gone through some of the trainings, I can see that it's different from some of the other personality tests. It's not just a personality test. It is telling you, how you're showing up, but then also in ways how you can show up better, So I think that's important. How now, in this space that we are in, how can we use the Enneagram when we are reconciling our differences as it relates to some of the racial tension that you see? Have people used the Enneagram as it relates in having these discussions? Like, how can the Enneagram help us in this conversation that we're having around race and racial injustice?
Yeah, so everywhere I go, I use this tool. And so, I do DE and I and B work. And I have a couple of companies that I do that with the Enneagram spliced in, like a big chemical company that's super national. Shout out to them. They're doing great things. But one of the ways that it overlaps is that if we aren't self-aware, there's very little that we can change. I mean, you can look at AA meetings, right? It's like, first I have to admit I got a problem. So I got to be aware that I'm struggling with something. So once I gain the awareness, which also adds in humbleness, now I can shift some things. Now I can move some things. Because a lot of times within our types that contribute to maybe an unhealthy ideology that we've adopted and we don't realize it, and we're just rolling with it because now we've adopted it into our personality. Whatever our personality quirks are, or the strong things we feel, we've connected it there, and now it just makes it feel like it's right. And we don't have the capacity, which self-awareness gives us capacity to question ourselves and be like, okay, I know I feel fired up about this, but let me take a step back. Let me think for a second. How am I showing up? Even though I'm fired up, am I treating other people wrong in my ability to be fired up? And so that is one of the biggest pieces. So without self-awareness, it is almost, to me, almost virtually impossible to actually create true change, because sometimes self-awareness comes with something, dramatic happening where a person realizes where it's like they're hit in the face with something, right? It's like, oh my goodness, they can't unsee certain things, right? But what the Enneagram does, it helps us to start that process on our own inside of ourselves, so we don't have to keep getting hit by like life 2x4s, where it's like, oh my goodness, I didn't know I was so blind. I couldn't believe I was doing this and hurting people and saying this. So the Enneagram, the biggest tool of it is that self-awareness piece, and then that self-awareness piece leads us to inner work, as we kind of call it. It's like, okay, how do I work on myself so that I can show up better for my community, for myself, and for my partner? So that is one of the most powerful things the Enneagram does when we talk about how it is directly correlated and connected to D, E, and I, B, and J justice work as well. Like you have to have it. You have to.
Yeah. And I think, like, it's so funny, like, it's like you talk about self-awareness and in our transformational bridge, this pathway that we've created as an organization. The first step is awareness, and then acknowledgement, And so, like, it goes hand in hand. If we're going to do this work of racial reconciliation, you have to be aware, of the issue, of the problem, and then I think this takes it even a step deeper. It's like, how are you showing up? You know, like, because it starts with you. And I always say, you know, this work that we're doing, it started with me first, you know, and then as you, you know, transform, the places that you intersect, transform, and how you show up, you know, with people. And I think it has helped with, if you can develop empathy, you can do this work. But if you are apathetic, like you, like it's not going to work. It's not going to work. What are some books, you know, and people that are doing this work, there's so many books out there now. You know, one of my friends, Sandra Van Opsel, I think she just collaborated on a book. I think she's an 8. I want to say she's an 8. She just did a book, you know, and so I hear about books all the time. What are some of the first books? Someone that's really trying to understand. They're like, this makes sense. Like, hey, I'm burning bridges. I'm the troll on the bridge. Like, right. You know, I'm noticing that I'm having the same problems in every place that I go to work. There's a common denominator in that. You know, if you're continuously having issues and some of the same issues, it's probably not the work environment or the people. It may start with you, you know? And so, like, you know, there's a common denominator there. What are some books for people that may be in that situation? What are the first books that you recommend that people should read?
I'm so glad you asked this question. I have 4 books and they are fire.
Okay. Fire. I like that.
They are fire. I'm mentioned or my name pops up in 2 of them, which I'm thankful for.
Oh, so they're fire because your name pops up?
No.
No, I'm just messing with you.
So, all right. So the first one is The Enneagram of Black Liberation by Chi Ogorum.
Oh, I like that.
That is the first one I recommend people read when you talk about overlapping, like understanding the BIPOC or any marginalized culture with the Enneagram overlap. Oh my goodness, it's powerful. The next book I would recommend is, all right, so it's called No Justice, No Peace, but it's KNOW, and it's on both of them. So it's No Justice, No Peace, KNOW, Peace, by Dr. Deborah Egerton. Okay, that's the second one. The third one and this book is not a crossover of BIPOC and justice work, but it's just Enneagram in general. It's called The Complete Enneagram by Beatrice Chestnut. Okay. And then last but not least is a book called Reclaiming You, an Enneagram Look at Trauma by Sharon K. Ball.
Ooh, tell me a little bit about that one. Why is that one on your list?
So that one is on my list because a lot of times part of the reason why people show up so, I guess, harshly or it's so difficult for some people to even have the space to shift, change, or become humble or curious, just curious, is because there's some form of trauma that has not been dealt with that resides inside of their bodies. And so the body keeps score. Like there's a book called The Body Keeps Score, and it does. Even though mentally we may have forgotten it or it's lodged away somewhere hiding because our mind was like, no, that's too much. We can't do that. But our body keeps the score. And until we learn how to work through some of those traumatic experiences, whether it be with a counselor or a therapist or your preacher or somebody who is certified to do this work, right, or a spiritual teacher or a somatic worker, until we work with those things, it's really hard for anyone, but especially people who've had like maybe consistent trauma, right? It's not big trauma, big T's, but it's just a lot of small T's that never dealt with them. And so they get triggered back into the same patterns, which tightens our type structure, our personality. Or we've had a big T, and because we're so used to dealing with life and like life is like that, I got to keep moving forward. I got to keep doing my thing, right? And that's a defense mechanism to a degree to cope with it. But as long as we don't really unpack it and deal with it, it's hard for us to heal so that we can truly be as impactful, as empathetic, as earth-shattering, ground-shaking, moving things in a positive way than we can be. So that's the reason I consider that one, because they do have practical things that anyone can do here that helps when we do encounter those internal body traumatic things going on. Or if something traumatic happens, it gives you tools to be like, okay, this is what you may need to do, because we have to complete a stress cycle. Like our bodies get caught in the fear, like what happens, freeze, fun, flight, fight, all that, right? But we never complete it sometimes. That's the problem. Most of the time we don't complete it so that we can move forward. So our body is stuck with that charged up energy, anxiety, all that type of stuff. So yeah, that's a reason I considered that book, and I wanted to share it because it's really practically helpful. And I know people listening on this podcast, like I know they care about this area or have and are going through this, and it's been normalized, and it's not normal. Trauma is not a normal thing. We should just be walking around like, I'm fine. I battled all this. Like, no, let's work on each other. Let's heal.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I love it. I love it. And you see, this is, and some of you are listening, and he probably hit on a couple of things that you never heard. And some of you have been studying the Enneagram or in conversations. But this is what happens when there's diversity and inclusion at the table. It makes for a more robust conversation, and I think, some of the elements that you're talking about, for me, is I'm able to connect with that in a better way. And I've been a part of a lot of these conversations, but I think these are some practical things, even for our community. How do you think, how can you use the Enneagram as a tool to better engage people in your community? So those of you who are hearing this, what are, these are, the Be the Bridge community, they are being activated within their community. They're leveraging their skill sets, their giftings, and all of that to do this work of racial justice and racial healing, racial equity within their communities. So how can they better engage? How can this help you, this tool help you better engage the community, other than empathy? Yeah. I think one of the best ways it helps, and a way to get to it is, and this is always a little tricky, because when you have people who've been doing the work for a while, they're like, we want to do it a certain way. One of the biggest things is to get people possibly like typed correctly, like finding the correct Enneagram type, because a lot of times you feel seen, and then you can actually see what gifts, right? What strengths that you have, but also what potential struggles and challenges and pitfalls you have to watch out for. And it helps to help you understand that, like, you're not the only person out here, like, with this personality. Because I remember growing up as a teenager, there were times where I was like, I think I'm crazy. I mean, even after teenager, like, I was like, I think I'm slightly crazy. Like, the way that I think, right? Something must be wrong or something, right? I'm just different.
Right. So something's off with me, But helping us to understand that, like, there are people around the world going through the same things we go through is so important. And so if we're engaging our communities with the Enneagram, like, besides empathy, we talk about people just feeling seen. I think one of the most important things for me, and this is like my personal view, because I be in a lot of communities that are predominantly white, obviously in the Enneagram space right now. And there are some schools of thought where it's like, we really want the person to wait and explore who they are and figure out their type. I don't feel the same way, because I feel like the life that BIPOC people live is just like, life is too serious and dangerous at times to not understand self, in my opinion. So I feel like we need to do our best to get to what the accurate type is. Honestly, not rushing, not forcing, but fast as possible. Because some of the traits, depending on our external environment, have been heightened so much that, like, it could lead to a life or death situation. It could lead to a situation that makes it hard for me to move forward because of XYZ, because of my own trauma and stuff. And so we don't always have, in my opinion, the capacity to just wait and let it come to us and we'll find it. I don't feel like we always have that capacity. So I'm trying to get to the accurate type so that we can really see ourselves. So one, like, you talk about self-love. So outside of like empathy for other people, we're talking about compassion for ourselves. This is something you mentioned earlier, which is powerful.
Yeah.
We learn how to find ways to love and include different parts and accept parts of ourselves that maybe before we thought was just some outlier, something weird about it, and we never saw like the gift that came with it. So that's one of the biggest gifts. So we talk about like our community, spreading to our community, talk about being able to see yourself more clearly so you can love yourself deeply, right? So you can accept yourself. And that changes everything. When we love ourselves, oh my goodness, the way that we operate externally changes so much. The way we work with our kids, work with our family, work with our church, work with our friends, work with our partners. All of that shifts. The way we treat the schools, everything shifts. So even in this work, and it's been one of the hardest things for me to learn, there's so much that I can't approach with my mind. There's a lot of things I can think about and stuff, but when I talk about deeper relationships, and when we talk about like the work that you all do, the justice work that you all do, you gotta be connected to the heart, because I've mentally tried to work on people and change them based on facts and stats, and that does not completely work. You gotta have the heart and then insert the facts and stats, but you gotta connect first from the heart.
If you've been enjoying and learning from the Be the Bridge podcast, we invite you to join us in this work. You can support and sustain our mission as a recurring partner at bethebridge.com/give. You can also help spread this word of bridge building by supporting and really sporting our apparel. So if you haven't gotten your Be the Bridge hat, sweatshirt, all of the things, let's take the message to the street. Visit our online store at shop.bethebridge.com and make sure we're spreading the word about all the work that Be the Bridge is doing and will do. At Be the Bridge, we're doing the work to empower people and culture toward racial healing, racial equity, and racial reconciliation. And this work is only possible because of the generosity of bridge builders like you. So thank you so much for those of you who are listening and sharing our podcast, sharing our posts, those of you who are giving to this work that's helping us create resources and material that will transform hearts. So join us at bethebridge.com/give, and let's continue to build bridges together. Thank you so much. Man, and so when you think about like I know there's so much that I learned about myself, and when I originally took the test, I had to take it probably like 3 times before I really like understood. People would say, "Well, what are you?" I was like, I'm a 13.
Right.
And then I was like, they were like looking at me like, then I remember telling people I was a 3. I don't even know where that came from, you know. But then when I took it probably a couple years ago, I was a 9, but I didn't want to be a 9.
Right.
So I was like, what? How is this? But when I look at a 9, like when I truly look, I am definitely a very strong 9, like an off the chart 9. I don't know if you have my stuff with you, but like I'm an off the chart 9. But like I have this 8 wing. And so like when you think about doing what I do, leading the way I lead, you know, like typically you wouldn't see a lot of 9s doing this. And so explain how that works. And, you know, you can just use me as a breakdown, like breakdown Latasha Morrison for the Be the Bridge community.
All right. Game time.
Game time.
So there's levels and layers to this, and this is the beauty of the Enneagram. It doesn't, like we said earlier, it doesn't box people in.
Right.
Like the goal is to help you not be in the box.
Right.
So one thing that's really important to understand is that when we do our inner work, like we have access to all 9 numbers. Like when we need to, we can step into another number, right? We can show up and say, oh, even though, and I guess I'll give my number now since I'm saying, I'm a 7, right? Like 7's my home base, even though I'm a 7, and I can be fun, free, all over the place, scattered also. But when I need to be disciplined, focused, I can move to the line to the 1 and really have my focus on. So if we're talking about you as a leader, as a 9, which is usually generally not the position that nines take in organizations. And so one big part of it, I think that's important to note, because there's levels and layers. So within each 9 types, there are what's called 3 instincts. And so we all have these instincts in us, but they're stacked in a different way. So one is like very important and we like do it really, really strongly. And then one is like repressed and we don't show up that much. And if I'm not mistaken, your dominant stack, or the instinct that's on top for you, is social. And so even though you may be a 9, you're being a social dominant, like that's the instinct. What it's called. It means to care about communities, organizations. That means that be your high focus. So even though that being the case, when the 9 has a dominant instinct of the social instinct, that means they really care about the community and other people, and so they work extremely hard for other people in the community to be well. They have to make sure they do it in a way that they honor themselves and that they take care of themselves, because they could do it to the detriment of themselves at times. So they do have to be careful. But it really makes, and this makes sense when you said a 3 popped up, it's because the social 9 can look like the 3. Like where the 3 is like making sure that things are getting done, you're accomplishing things, you're knocking things out. Like the social 9 can look externally like a 3 because they are ambitious at accomplishing something for the greater good of people. And that's what's going on. The difference is, a lot of times internally, there's a lot difference internally. A lot of things are going on different internally between the 9 and 3. I promise you that. And that's the things you read the 9, you're like, yeah, that's me. So there's that drive for social 9s to be able to do that. And that's a part of what I see you doing, which I think is incredible. And then you mentioned the wings. And so what wings are, for those who may not know, it's the numbers to the left or the right of your home base, okay? So it means you pick up a little bit of that behavior. You don't change your type. You don't pick up their core stuff they have to work on, but you pick up a little bit of their behavior. And so, one, being a black woman in America, naturally, you're going to have to take on a little bit of that 8 to be able to make it, to be able to move past, to be able to be strong in the face of adversity. So that's a natural thing and especially since it's right next door to your number, it's a natural thing you've taken upon, right? Because it's like, okay, when I step in this room, I'm going to have to bring more groundedness. I'm going to have to bring a little bit more of my voice. I'm going to have to say something. Guess what? Even though 9s they're the peacemakers or the peacekeepers, as they call it, whatever, in this, I'm going to have to create a little bit of conflict so that we can get some true peace, because we're not doing. So this is the power. I'm going to have to make you uncomfortable so we can move this conversation forward. So, that's right. That's right. A little discomfort, but my friend calls it, my friend, she explained it to me, my friend Destiny. She said, it's like you were like rubbing me on my back, but also like hit me in my face. And she said, I didn't know whether to be mad at you or to hug you. Yes. And she said, and you did it with a smile. So I was like, she loves me. She cares for me. But this is hurting me, you know. And, right. And that's, and I don't try to do that. That's just my personality does that, you know, on its own, you know. Listen, I have one of my best friends who lives in Greece. He's a missionary. Shout out to Jackson. He's a 9. He did the exact same thing to me. I was talking about something going in, and then he brought something to my realization. When he brought something to my realization about women's rights that I hadn't thought about. And this was about, like, I don't know, 12, 13 years ago. We riding in the car, and it was like, he just called me out. But it was like I didn't know what to do either. I was like, he's so right now. I don't know to be offended or to thank him. I can't tell. But it's a gift, right? When 9s step into, like, just fleeing from, like, oh, no, I don't want to rock the boat, don't want to cause conflict here. When they step into, conflict needs to happen because we need to solve something and bring a true version of harmony, a true version of peace. Oh, yeah, it's a gift. Yeah, it's a gift. Yeah. And one of the things that you told us when you did our training with our team, I forget, you have to help me. I want to bring it up because I'm hoping that you can. You said there were only 2 or 3 people on our team with that, and it was kind of like how we showed up. I know it was like I was a social 9, but how I interacted, I forget the word that was used.
Oh my God. I cannot think of it. If I think of it, I'll come back to it. But
please do. Yes.
Yeah, I will. But when you so the Enneagram is going to help you with observations. And so it's going to help you when you're self-aware. It's going to help you see your biases. But also I think it helps, as you see your biases, you're able to see people. So you're able to see people in the condition that they're in. So whether it's, someone that's in a marginalized community or someone that's in, a more structural privileged community, can you elaborate on that a little bit more, just as far as the Enneagram and self-observation? And maybe using me as an example again, if you want to, or yourself.
I think one of the gifts of becoming self-aware is that you become also culturally aware. And so you are alluding to this. It's like, okay, one, when I start to understand the stuff going on inside of me, it's like, whoa, this is a lot, right? But then we start to see what it connects to in my own life. So it's like, okay, where am I societally and what's going on, and how and what impact does that have on others? The way that I show up, the way that I take up space, how does that impact other people? As a 7, I can fill a room with words. I can talk and talk and talk and talk, and not leave space for everyone else in the room who has something to say that may not process like brain power as fast as I do. But guess what? Their idea may be 10 times better than mine, but I just been speaking quicker. And so for me, learning that, yes, I do have a natural tone that speaks pretty fast on a natural basis as a 7. My brain pops ideas out of nowhere really quickly. They may not be all the way thought through, but they pop up really quickly.
Right.
And realizing that I have the capability to just speak and just take over, and everyone doesn't. That's helped me to say, okay, in spaces where I am not the only person there, I need to make sure that hey, yes, my voice is important, just as important as everyone in here, but also their voices are just as important as mine. And so I need to make sure I allow space for them to speak too, or to share themselves. So that means maybe I need to get my point off, share my point a little bit more concise, and then pull back so that someone else has space to do it. But that's me noticing what's going on around me as well, because I understand what's happening inside of me. And so that's one of the biggest components that's important to understand. And then it goes a little bit further outside of that, right? You start to look at the context of people, and not just what they do at that moment, but what's their context, right? Where are they coming from? And so having a little bit more of that empathy, it's like, oh, you're coming from that space. Obviously, I disagree with everything you're saying right now, but from your context, until we have a real good conversation and connection, that's all you know right now. But okay, we're going to work on it together, because I'm going to do my best to connect from a heart level, because you are a human like I'm a human. You deserve love, compassion, empathy, just like I do, even though it's going to take a little work inside sometimes, because I disagree with what you're saying. Nevertheless, when we make that connection, then we'll be able to share that perspective a little bit more, and, add in a little bit more of things that maybe I didn't see or they didn't see, so that we have a little bit more reconciliation going on.
Yeah, so good. Are there some types, that lean a little bit more towards justice, social justice? Are there some types that kind of naturally lean that way?
Yeah, naturally, I would say that there are 8s, 9s, and 1s, because their primary emotion, and I'm going to explain this a little bit quick. Their primary emotion is anger. And so when I say anger, I know people. So helping people understand that, hey, anger is not bad or good. It's how it's used, right? There's a righteous anger, right, and then there's a malicious anger, right, that can do bad things. So if we're just talking about anger in general, this is their primary emotion, right, that they orient the world. And what anger is really saying within the 8s, 9s, and 1s is that, hey, I feel something is wrong and something needs to be done. Right, something's off, something's not right. There needs to be something happening here, and right, and it's like it takes it to okay, let's move into action.
I call it discontent.
That's one of the emotions of anger. Yes, that is one of them. That is one of the emotions of anger.
Okay.
And it makes sense for a 9 to say that. And it makes sense for a 9 to say that. It's like, no, I'm not angry. I'm just discontent.
And then I'll throw on there, it's wholly discontent.
Turn it up a notch.
Yeah, turn it up a notch. But that is so true. I have to balance that because you could be all over the place. So that's good. So you said the 8, 9, and 1. Okay. I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, if you're just talking about in general, as in, like having a tendency to bent or lean towards it more naturally because of their type structure, right?
Okay.
All the types obviously can be fired up, do great work, and should be doing great work, right? But the natural type structure can be towards that, right? Now, the flip side is when someone is on the flip side of that, of like the opposite of justice, right? Where you have to be careful too, because they can be difficult to work with in these scenarios, right? Until they fully see that, like, that's
good. I think about when we think about types and how they'll have, this famous person is this type, and great leaders are this type. Do you see some of that playing into the Enneagram also? I think someone said like, if you had to name someone, what is Oprah? What is Oprah as a type, or or like this leader that leads this company is this, you hear that, but I what I've seen with the Enneagram is that it's so diverse, and even in this leadership and how people lead, with various types, and then understanding how we're working in those types, and it's still so much about this that I don't understand, that I'm still trying to dissect and all those things. We have someone on our team, Andrea. I know you know her. Like she's all into it. Like she, she is like all deep into it. I'm like, I think I use it like as far as my self-awareness and how I communicate with others, and then also to help me understand people better. But then it's, I think, when you do that, it does help you have empathy for people, and then it helps you lead. I think it makes me a better leader knowing someone, their type, and how they're showing up. What are some ways where you will see that the Enneagram and intersects with this this work of racial reconciliation?
So, the space where I'd see it doing that, probably the most, when you talk about racial reconciliation, is, I'm going to come back to that same piece. I'm sorry, but empathy is going to be a big part of it. I'm bringing it back.
No, that's good. That's good.
Because when I enter a space, when I work with people, I have to understand what's happening in me first too, especially if I'm doing racial reconciliation work.
Right.
Because here's the tricky part. We can go into something with the best intentions and the best motives. If we aren't self-aware of what's happening in us at the present moment, or when we're entering to the space, what happens is, especially if we get triggered, our ego or personality takes over. And so now we've gone from trying to do racial reconciliation work to trying to win. And that is not the way that, it works, right? It's not, we don't, go into that work to win. You're going into it to build bonds, to build bridges, right? And so going in it to win, you're never going to build that bridge because the ego is taken over, because we lost self-awareness, right? We lost what was going on inside of ourselves. We got charged up. We got triggered by something somebody said, and whether they meant to hurt us or not, or it triggered something, nevertheless, our ego is taken over. It's like, I got this now. It's like, move back.
Right.
I know what to do now. We're going to win this thing, so we're safe,
Right.
And so understanding the Enneagram is saying, whoa. So like before I go and facilitate, like one thing just noticing is like, okay, me specifically as a 7, we have what is kind of like we're very light in our bodies. So we have a lot of head energy. We're kind of up springy. The energy is all at the top of our bodies, our heads, kind of our arms and stuff. But the bottom of us, we're not always very grounded. So me understanding that if I enter a space that is going to be, I would say, as serious as racial reconciliation work, and I'm not grounded, then I'm not showing up fully in my body. And so what I can do in my specific type when it comes to racial reconciliation work, all of a sudden I make things lighter than what they are, or I make a joke, or I distract people, or I mentally check out for a while because maybe it's just too much for me. But if I'm aware, like, okay, I see what's going on here, let me do some breathing practices, let me ground myself, and let me make sure I'm serious when I enter this space because what we're talking about is serious, right? Or let me deliver information in a way that gets the point across in a serious manner, because that's another thing sevens can do, right? We can say something and just make it seem like a joke or light enough, or it doesn't hit the mark like it needs to hit the mark. So every type has something that we do that is similar when we get into these spaces and these different, I would say, even situations or conversations with people that are on the level of racial reconciliation. But if we're not aware of what's happening in our bodies, all of a sudden our ego takes over personality, and it's running the show, and we're not really creating and building a bridge. We're just simply going through our automatic patterns that we're so used to doing, right? So I think that's the biggest way it helps us is that, okay, if I can be aware in the situation of what is happening inside of me, and simultaneously, because this happens too, having empathy for them, because now maybe I'm listening to what they mean and not 100% of what they're saying, right? Because there's a difference. I can listen with my heart. If I'm present to a person, head, heart, and body, if I'm present, all of that's here. Now I can listen with my heart when someone else speaks and not just my head, because my head got a lot of judging going on. It's like, that fact was wrong. They didn't say that right. They don't even know what they're talking about. That acronym is correct. Did you use the right pronouns? All that stuff, right? You know? Right. And so when I bring it back to the heart, I was like, okay, what's the heart of the matter that they're trying to convey here? And is there something that I can see and maybe connect at that level? And then maybe we can talk about other stuff. And can I physically be present with them? Can I feel what they're trying to get across? And can they feel what I'm trying to get across, you know? So, yeah.
That's so good. And as we close, what are some things that you probably have learned in working with various groups, like as far as race, age, and social class, you know, because this, you know, as we talk about diversity of groups, we talk about, like, you know, this really getting is start in the States and very white spaces. But when we think about this and as it relates to class, you know, what are some of your thoughts around that?
Yeah, this is why I love the Enneagram, because there's so many different spaces that bringing our full humanity and seeing other people fully as humans needs to constantly be poured into. And so one of the things that I've learned and I'm learning and I'm also trying to bring to these different spaces is the fact that the way that we even speak about people who we feel that are different than we are, there's a mindset in the way that, like, it's talked about. So I give you a quick example. Very quick example. I'm looking at going to a conference, and it's a conference that is that you know, these people are trying to make some money, you know.
Right.
And so the issue is that there are good things that they're saying, but when I read your book and you say the difference between rich people and poor people, I have a problem with that. Right, because to me, you've already put people in a different class, and you may say a different mindset, like a rich mindset or a poor mindset. I'm fine with that. But when we put people in a whole different class, that's not healthy for us at all, right? Because then we start to feel some type of way about ourselves and who we think we are and all this stuff. And it's not just that arena of, like, money and class, but it's every single arena. So we really have to watch ourselves, right? We really have to be like, ooh, even though I'm used to saying that and calling these people that, I need to pull that back. Even though I'm with my folk, I need to be careful, because even though I may know that when I interact with someone who's different that I don't speak or say those things, the people I'm speaking with, they may not, and they may carry that on into their conversation. So I'm like, oh, this humbleness thing goes a little bit further than I wanted to, but I'm working on it. So
yeah.
I think
good.
that's
good. That's good. Now, as you know, what are the greatest takeaways personally that you've gotten from leading with the Enneagram? Like, what is one of the greatest takeaways that you've gotten personally?
I would say the greatest part that a quick story that happened to me about, I'm going to say like 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago, is that when the Enneagram, I do something for an organization and it impacts their family in a healthy way. And so I taught something, we're teaching self-awareness, and part of my self-awareness is helping people to feel their bodies. And so I do breathing practices, right, which can feel weird in corporate spaces. They're like, what this dude got us doing? Oh, we sitting here breathing, closing our eyes. I don't trust this guy, whatever. But when they learn to trust it, when they're able to take home something and they can say, oh, I went home and my daughter was having a hard time sleeping because her mind always wanders. And I was wondering if this could be her type, and I used this technique you taught us, and she was able to go to sleep just fine and feel really comfortable and safe. And I said, that's the stuff right there. When it goes beyond just me talking in a room with people, when they can take it home and their families are impacted in a healthy way, those are always the greatest takeaways I can do, is when it's moved beyond compartmentalizing just with our work, but it's moved into our personal lives, and it's like transforming the way that we live and love.
Yeah. I love that. Transformation, I've heard you say that several times. And so, I think how we sum up the Enneagram in its outworking is that of transformation. So transformation of self that helps you transform the places that you are a part of, that you intersect, so your community, your home, your workplace, we're not turning those things off. You don't have one type in this place, and then you may show up differently in some of those spaces. But I think the ultimate goal is to really to be our healthy selves, So I'm so grateful for you. I'm glad that you're doing this. I'm glad that your friend brought out the blue book and you took that test, and that just ignited. I mean, it provoked a career change for you.
Seriously,
you do this full time right now, right?
Full time.
Yeah, consultant. And you heard how he dropped about that chemical company that he's doing some consulting work with, So I'm so grateful for you. And we had Milton. He spent the day with us here in Atlanta with our team, and it was transformative. And a lot of us had experiences, and we've done training with the Enneagram, but this was different. And there was a deeper connection. I don't know. It was really different. It was really life-giving. And so we were really grateful for you. And you spent some time with the team afterwards. And, I had to show you off at Top Golf, but,
Yeah, you did. I was not good. It's okay, though. I'm working on it. I was
horrible. No, I'm terrible at it. Sorry. But anyway, thank you so much. And, I would say, what is the one hope at the end that you would want to leave with our audience that they would get out of maybe, trying to, if they're curious about the Enneagram, what is one hope that you would hope that they would get from there?
I would say one hope is that they do find great Enneagram material and or teachers so that they could truly start to do self-awareness work and heal themselves and to love themselves even more, so they can do it more for their community.
Yeah, I love that. And so you can follow Milton on Instagram, and we'll give all that information in the show notes. But Do It for the Gram podcast is actually on Instagram, and so there are a lot of other ways that we'll put in the show notes that you guys can connect with. So make sure that you let us know how this podcast was helpful to you. When we post this, make sure you come and comment and tell us some stories. I want to hear about your type, or maybe some things that you disagree with. I was about to say keep that to yourself, but yeah, we want to hear your disagreement too.
All good.
I had to activate that 8 right there now.
Challenge.
But we're so grateful for you, and thank you for listening to the Be the Bridge podcast.
Go to the donors table if you'd like to hear the unedited version of this podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Be the Bridge podcast. To find out more about the Be the Bridge organization and or to become a bridge builder in your community, go to BeTheBridge.com. Again, that's BeTheBridge.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, remember to rate and review it on this platform and share it with as many people as you possibly can. You can also connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Today's show was edited, recorded, and produced by Trayvon Potts at Integrated Entertainment Studios in Metro Atlanta, Georgia. The host and executive producer is Latasha Morrison. Lauren C. Brown is the senior producer.
And transcribed by Sarah Conitzer.
Please join us next time. This has been a Be the Bridge production.